Hey guys, thanks for watching Open Line tonight. We're talking about homelessness, affordable housing, a village at Glencliff that is being spearheaded. One of the people helping with this Open Table, Ingrid McIntyre. Why can I not get your last name?
It's because you're Canadian.
Side conversation, by the way. I do want to touch base again from the people who are just against this. I know some of them have already banded together. They have their own attorney as well, something that you've already gone to court for. They mentioned the religious land use and how that is, of course, one way that Glencliff is able to do this, but they're kind of buffering that. They're saying it's being skewed with the planning and commission. What is, I know you've already said this, but what is your response to that? Because there was a court hearing recently. There was,
yeah. So we have created a community council after we had several community meetings as a whole that I just didn't feel like were very productive just to talk about this. We decided to create a community council where there were 2 members from each of the neighborhood associations surrounding the church. So there's 4 neighborhood associations. So we have 2 people from each of the neighborhood associations, 2 people from Glencliff United Methodist Church, and then 2 people from our staff that meet together once a month and just talk about what's going on. So one of the things that I really want to say is, like, we want to be in conversation. Like, we don't want this to be painful for anyone. We want our friends to feel safe once they move into the housing. We want our neighbors to feel safe too. And I think that will be accomplished and people will see that over the long run. But in the meantime, obviously, we're still going to have those conversations.
What's the latest status? So what's the latest?
So we went to court a couple weeks ago, and we're waiting on the written order from the judge.
So the judge will have
a written order.
Some opinion on this.
Yes. The judge will have an opinion for sure.
And for you, how will you get involved with this?
How will I get involved?
Will you get involved?
He is involved.
So,
to say the least.
Well, I go canvass with them, I think the idea is to kind of keep an eye on how this is proceeding, and if it works as a pilot program, then we can do more of it. I applaud Open Table, but also applaud the neighbors. Everybody is going through this thing. It's a kind of a first process. It's a first test.
Right.
People are nervous, fear the unknown, but if we can get this right, then we can do it in other places as well. So I applaud everybody. I know that people sometimes get mad at each other, but in the end, we're helping people, which is what we should all be about.
Yeah. If the judge wants to judge whatever, if everything is good, comes through, when are we expecting everything to be completed, if that's the case?
Well, I need a construction fairy. No, we don't really know right now. Things are a little bit slow when it comes to building these days in Nashville, just because all the construction that's going on, and so finding all the right people. We found most of the folks, but sometimes they just have jobs for a while. So lining all those things up will take a while, and we have to wait 4 days with no rain. Again, like I said earlier, Heather's still working on that.
So, if you're watching.
Yeah. So we need 4 days with no rain so that we can start moving the dirt. We've been waiting for a while. First it was frozen, now it's wet. So yeah, 4 days with no rain is what we need.
All right, let's go back to the lines. Hey Matt, I think you're calling. What's your question?
Yes, I live in the area. I'm wondering, I don't know if this has been asked or not, will alcohol be prohibited on the property, being that it's obviously a church property?
Yeah. Yes, Matt. Thank you for asking that question. Alcohol will be prohibited on the property.
Was that asked during the meetings, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Why do you think that's the question that comes up?
Probably because when people get drunk, they're crazy. I don't know. But
I just wonder if it's
a perception,
maybe a notion,
right? Yeah,
or,
it is a perception. It's a perception, like people have other perceptions that might be incorrect. It's assuming that everyone on the streets. Well, it's not assuming. Obviously, some people do and some people don't drink, and it's not something that they will be able to do in these homes. One of the other things that's really great is we'll have a care coordinator on staff that's their full-time job, is to work with the folks in these micro homes. We haven't really talked about that. This is bridge housing for folks, so they will be live in these micro homes, actively working on permanent housing until they are able to move into permanent housing, and then someone else will be able to live in that micro home. So it will continue to give, not just to one person, but hopefully hundreds of people.
What do church members say?
Yeah, well, most church members have been pretty supportive. They had to have a vote, of course, of their church council for this to be able to happen. I think that they know that part of our calling in the church is to walk side by side with our brothers and sisters, no matter what they look like or what economic status they are, and that they feel like this can be part of their ministry in the neighborhood and in Nashville to really begin to build relationships. So 61st Avenue United Methodist Church closed last year, and it was a church in West Nashville that served a lot of our friends. And when it closed, the folks there were devastated. It's obviously been a very supportive community to them, but when they saw that Glencliff had chosen to take this risk, right, this leap of faith, and say, yeah, we'll do this. We'll partner with Open Table. We will build these micro homes and provide what we have, the resources that we have, to give someone else a better life. So that's been really encouraging, right? And when the 61st Avenue people said, this is amazing. So they started coming over to Glencliff. So now Glencliff has all the members from 61st Avenue that used to go there are now going to Glencliff because of the mission that Glencliff chose to stand up with.
Are there any other ideas that you want to debunk, or just to help people kind of clear their thoughts on certain issues that they may have with this?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we always say is that we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. We don't do this work for the money. We don't do this work because we want to go and have lawsuits and whatever. We do this work because we love our friends who don't have housing. We want them to be able to have the same opportunities that we've had living in housing. And when you're living in survival mode all the time, you can't live into who it is that you were made to be, right? You're too busy surviving.
Yeah.
These are just people, okay? So sometimes we forget.
Yeah.
So there is that perception problem. But, when I've gone out, there are people.
Yeah.
There are people. We're supposed to help take care of other people. Whether it's a church or whether it's an organization or whether it's just neighborhoods. They're just people, and for various reasons, they're homeless.
Yeah.
And a lot of people could be homeless. A lot of people are a couple of paychecks away. So it's a scary thing, or a health problem came up and they end up being homeless. But they're just people. And one of the things that I think we were all, hopefully most of us were taught as we were growing up, is that we should help other people.
Yeah.
So we just have to get over that perception problem and then go forward.
Well, and a lot of times people will put the ownership on an individual, right? And in a situation like ours right now, where our minimum wage is $7.25, right? People can't afford a place to live in Nashville when they're making $7.25.
Sure.
So you could be working a minimum wage job more than 40 hours a week, right? 80 hours a week, and not be able to have an apartment and not be severely cost burdened.
I've heard from many people, it only takes that one incident, one paycheck to, anyone can go homeless.
Yep.
All right, we'll continue the conversation as soon as we come back after the break.